Jurors are deliberating right now in former President Trump's New York criminal trial. It's the first criminal case ever brought against a former U.S. president. And now it's in the hands of the jury. Trump is facing 34 felony counts of falsifying business records. We will be monitoring the deliberations all hour long, and we will bring any update, any question they may ask the judge, we will bring right to you as they try to reach this historic verdict. Hello, everyone. This is Outnumbered. I'm Kayleigh McEnany. Here is my co-host, Emily Campagno and Harris Faulkner. Also joining us, Fox News contributor and president of American Spirit Enterprises, Tammy Bruce, and Fox & Friends co-host of the Brian Kilmeade radio show, and Fox & Friends host of Fox & Friends, also host of One Nation. Of course, I refer to Brian Kilmeade. Just before deliberations began, Judge Juan Merchan reminded jurors of their vow to be fair. In his instructions, he told the jury to put aside any biases, consider all the facts, and that any proof of guilt must be beyond a reasonable doubt. That is the criminal standard. It is a high, high standard to reach indeed. Just moments ago, we heard the former president speak outside the courtroom. Here's what he said.
I would say, in listening to the charges from the judge, who's, as you know, very conflicted and corrupt, because of the confliction, very, very corrupt. Mother Teresa could not beat these charges. These charges are rigged. The whole thing is rigged. This is all because of Joe Biden.
Let's bring in Fox News Sunday anchor and chief legal correspondent, Shannon Bream. Shannon, I've been reading your notes all morning. They've been coming in with rapidity, and they've been fascinating to me. You know, Carrie Kupek said that the judge was speaking slowly. It was in a soft tone. You mentioned that it could be a YouTube sleep aid. It really kind of set the scene of the tone of what the jurors were hearing. But nevertheless, on this chain, I read that the jurors seemed engaged. They were listening. They were attentive, really seeming to take this responsibility in not a light manner.
Yeah, and the judge even referred to one specific juror he said had taken multiple notebooks worth of notes, because, you know, they always instruct the jury on what you can do with those notes. That's for you. That's for your recollection. They're not to be used to sway other jurors. And if they're in conflict with, of course, the transcript or something else, you got to go with that. But he acknowledged that people have been very attentive here, that they have been going in depth and trying to really take in weeks and weeks now of testimony that come down to this. They're officially underway with their deliberations. The judge has guided them in the way that he thinks they should apply the law. And again, we keep talking about, we finally got to what is that underlying issue? What is that underlying crime? And it seems like the judge is giving the jury a lot of leeway to figure that out. He talks about federal election violations. Well, we didn't have an expert to come in and talk about federal election violations. A case wasn't made for that, or for tax violations, or for other falsified business records. So he's sending this jury off now with the task of figuring out, initially, were those falsified documents done? And secondly, what was the underlying crime? And here you go, something we haven't really had testimony about, very little, if at all.
Yes, Shannon, what is happening right now, I want you to take us into that room. These jurors have not spoken about the case. They are entering a room. I was just listening to a former attorney who was a juror at one point say, I went into the room thinking I was going to be the lead on this case. I knew where the facts matched the law. And I went in, and a guy who wasn't even a lawyer convinced me of a different theory. So right now, it's kind of a meeting of the minds, and you can't predict. The lawyers could be the leader in the room. It could be someone else.
Right. We've debated many times what it means that there are two attorneys on this case. We know one does civil litigation. I'm not sure about the other one. But what role will they have? Will it be outsized or not? The case has been very confusing. I think, you know, we have all sat around in the courtroom and out debating exactly where this case is going, what it means. If we have some confusion about that, imagine a juror who has sat here, been peeled away from their family and their business and their kids and all those things for weeks and weeks to do this. Is it any clearer to them? Will those two attorneys have an outsized role in guiding people through these jury instructions, which again, as Trey noted moments ago, they didn't give them in person, which means they're going to be forced to come back to the judge and ask questions when they have them. They don't have them in writing. So there are all kinds of considerations to happen. And if they haven't discussed this, as they're not supposed to, when they get in there right now, they're all kind of unloading. There is a bit of a sigh of relief, like, now we can talk. Let's take a pulse. Let's find out where everybody is. Let's lock lock in our foreperson and let's start moving. We know it is a diverse group as far as backgrounds, kids, no kids, married, career person. So it'll be very interesting to see where these folks all come to. It's sort of like, the Fridays after they hear a Supreme Court case, they come in and they take a vote. And that's the first time that you find out where those justices are. That's what's happening now for these jurors. The first time they're going around the room and kind of breathing a sigh of relief and exhaling. Now we can talk about this. Where do we actually stand?
Oh, to be a fly on that wall. Shannon, you also said, it would be quite interesting. Michael Cohen, who is described, I understand it's a legal definition, but as an accomplice, you said that this could again muddy the water for jurors. Oh, there was a crime Cohen got caught doing and was in cahoots with Trump to do it. Just the word accomplice seems highly charged and in a way puts Trump in a light that the judge may not be intending to put him in.
Well, and this keeps going back to the fact that Cohen's guilty plea was allowed in on issue of federal election violations. And the judge rightfully gave the jury the instruction, listen, that's part of the conversation, it's part of the case, it's part of this witness's story, but you can't use it as a consideration or to find guilt for President Trump. But when you use the word accomplice, technically that's the right word. But again, you have to think about how that lands with the jury, because if they say to themselves, wait a minute, Cohen has pled guilty to something. He was an accomplice with who? With President Trump? So he's already pled guilty to a crime he committed with President Trump. I mean, there's just a possibility for confusion there. And again, that's where these jury instructions, it'd be helpful to have them in front of you as you're parsing through each single word and what they're supposed to do and how they'll follow the law. But it also makes me think that those two attorneys on the jury may end up getting a lot of questions that they may have as well from these other jurors.
Yeah, Shannon Bream, fascinating analysis. Thank you. Brian, I was reading this fascinating report today. Politico Playbook had it at the top. It was from the Bulwark. It was from Mark Caputo. And what's interesting about it is we all are trying to read every arm movement or twitch of every juror as to give us some light as to how people are seeing the case. But I was interested by one juror in particular. Trump allies say if it's a hung jury, they think it's because of this one juror who made friendly eye contact with Trump from time to time, appeared to nod along with the defense at times. When J.D. Vance walked in, apparently this juror's face lit up with a smile. And in fact, when that heated exchange took place with Todd Blanche and Michael Cohen, this juror suppressed a smile. And that's a top of Playbook this morning. I read that to you because it's interesting. We all try to discern human behavior. Right. We all try to read into it, and yet none of us have any idea what's going to happen.
Right, because we don't know the seven men and the 5 women that are on the jury. And I did read that today. And if they get a hung jury, the Trump people say, I think I know exactly who it is. If they get an acquittal, it'll surprise people like Jonathan Turley last night. After he heard the closing arguments, he said it's going to be tough to get an acquittal. So we'll see where it goes. Would Andy McCarthy just talk to me on radio? And I think you, Harris, talked to him, too. He's really concerned about this one instruction in particular. You don't need to all agree on what occurred on the second charge. So you have 3 choices? If you all agree for a different second choice, it's okay? My goodness, you're giving multiple choice on the conviction of a former president or anybody. That, to me, he says that's a brand new ballgame. He's never heard of that. We've all been waiting for the second charge, and now we don't even think the jurors have to agree unanimously on what that charge is. That's insanity to me.
It's insanity, and it could be a Sixth Amendment violation. There are real constitutional questions here.
Which would be on appeal, right?
Which would be on appeal, exactly. Emily, I was interested. So Jonathan Turley called this the Michael Cohen charge. You and I have talked about it previously. He said Judge Merchan just said if they find any witness has testified with regard to any material fact falsely, they can disregard the entirety of the testimony. The judge also said you may consider, did the witness have a bias? These seem tailor-made for the star witness, Michael Cohen.
Right, and that's the judge citing statutory law here in New York State. Specifically, I echo your concerns. I am shocked at the vagueness here, the lack of specificity. When you think about how we proceed through life, everything from your role as an employee to the austerity in concept of being a criminal defendant in this system, you are afforded every protection, and that begins with specificity, right? We have that with what am I being faced with? What are the charges? What do I know? Here at every opportunity that has been taken away from President Trump. And it is mind-boggling to me that it continues through in the jury instructions and in apparently the addition or the calculation of that potential guilty verdict. This is shocking to me that the jury could cobble together some type of guilty verdict on an amorphous charge, including that tax one that I find alarmingly vague. As we heard the prosecution saying, or we learned of the prosecution saying yesterday, you don't even have to underpay your taxes to be guilty, by the way. This jury has been spoon-fed what guilty means in a cake of vagueness and essentially said, vote with your conscience, but come to a consensus. I agree with you. I find it disheartening at a minimum, and I am now expecting a guilty verdict because on the sheer math of it all, how can you not? The miracle of an acquittal and the common sense and accuracy that would be truly all of those jurors rising above the table as laid by this prosecution, which is so patently unfair, so patently unconstitutional, to my opinion, as to supersede anything historical.
Yeah, and there are a litany of questions that come to mind. Brian raised one that you spoke with Andy McCarthy about, which is not knowing the second crime or having to agree on the second crime. Another that comes to my mind is Michael Cohen and the guilty plea to federal election law, which is not admissible evidence against Trump. And yet, how many times have we heard about this guilty plea? Yeah. And you expect jurors, rather, to just put it over here in a different place.
So what the judge said about that is just because there's one, accused co-conspirator in front of you, it doesn't mean that you can use whatever you know about the other guy against the person sitting in front of you. Which is complicated, because most of us as human beings go based on, well, which one of these is not like the other? So if they're the same in their minds, they can't separate that necessarily, especially under the duress of an hour-long instruction from the judge. I mean, that was, and they can't have notes, and they can't have that in front of them, contemporaneously as he's reading it. I mean, it was just a lot. My question comes from Judge Jeanine Pirro in one of the email chains today from our team. She said, if it is a mistrial, she wants to know, and by the way, the judge decides that the jurors can't call themselves a mistrial. They can say we can't agree, and then the judge decides whether or not that's the case. So what Judge Jeanine says is that, well, how many times will the judge send them back to try to reach agreement? She said in her experience, it's only been once, rarely twice. She doesn't know with this judge. And so that's one question about all of this. But real quickly about the politics, because you guys are all talking about how many charges, and Emily, you just laid out a compelling look at, well, there are a lot of pitfalls for finding somebody guilty in this scenario, because they could make stuff up at this, oh, there's this law in Detroit, and let's use Michigan or whatever. So the problem with this is, what is the goal? The goal is to make sure he can't go against Biden. I mean, if we just look at it in its purest sense, all Biden has to say in the post-verdict speech that he apparently is getting ready for now. I don't know how he has the tea leaves to know when this will end, but he's getting ready, and he's going to give it. He wants to say the word conviction. And Kayleigh, I don't think it matters what he's convicted on. I don't think it matters which charge, how many people agreed, how many times they had to go back. He wants that word. They all on the left want that word so that they can force the right to stumble in time. And what will that even mean if it doesn't matter to voters? But Biden is counting on the fact that it might.
Tammy.
Well, that's it. They want to be able to say convicted felon. He wants that for the debates.
Of course.
And the strange thing is, as strange as sending Robert De Niro out yesterday, is with everything we've seen, with how the American people have responded to this unfairness, we don't like unfairness. The country is built on a blind justice system. We have to, because we come from so many different places and have so many different backgrounds. But I think that you've got a dynamic with the Biden administration. They have finally understood the polls. We do see the freak out, as Politico noted, that they're panicked. But what they now need to do, of course, and they're just ignoring, they're hoping, it's like a Hail Mary pass, that maybe some independents will, peel off. Maybe certain Democrats who are populist will peel off. It is a horrible position for anybody to be in, for, frankly, both parties, but it's most horrible for the American people.
The Q poll says
what they've done to this country in this process.
Says if convicted, the likelihood of voting for Trump, more likely 11%, less likely 21%, no difference 65%. That could decide an election.
Yeah. Well, a lot of this, as we've seen, has been baked in, whether it's an indictment, whether it's any of these cases. So we will see. What we do know is the jury's deliberating at this very moment. They don't have the jury instructions. And as Andy McCarthy said, that means that we will have a window into the deliberations as they ask the judge questions. Maybe they ask him nothing. Maybe they ask him something. We'll let you know. We continue to monitor deliberations in New York versus Trump. Former federal prosecutor Trey Gowdy will join us when we come back for more on the historic trial.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.